My daughter-in-law went viral, calling her father-in-law trailer trash on TikTok. She did it while he was flatlined in surgery, convinced he wouldn't live to see it. She mocked his worthless farm, bragged about escaping generational poverty, and planned to sell his land behind his back for under $1 million. What she didn't know is that her poor farmer father-in-law quietly controlled a $50 million empire and had been secretly funding her entire family's lifestyle for years. Tonight, on the Confession Stories, you'll hear how one broke old farmer let his influencer daughter-in-law destroy herself, and then showed her what real power looks like. This is the story of the influencer who mocked the wrong farmer.
I almost died on a Wednesday,
Still milking it,
October 3rd, 2024.
Hospital lighting is terrible for my aesthetic,
Room 412 at
drama
Maple Ridge
sells,
Regional
right?
Medical Center. Fluorescent lights buzzing, heart monitor ticking like a cheap metronome, the faint smell of antiseptic and burnt coffee hanging in the air. Some people say near-death experiences are peaceful. Mine came with TikTok notification sounds.
Sure to like and subscribe.
I lay there, half drifting, half fighting my way back, when I heard the soft, familiar chime of my daughter-in-law's phone. My son Luke was pacing the hallway, worry written all over him in big red letters. Meanwhile, Madison, his wife, sat in the corner of my hospital room, ring light clipped to the side rail of the bed, iPhone 15 Pro Max propped up at the perfect angle. I kept my eyes closed, not because I was too weak to open them, because I wanted to hear who my family really was when they thought I couldn't answer back.
Look at this filter.
She cleared her throat softly, the way she always did before going into influencer mode. "Okay, guys," she whispered, voice dropping into that breathy tone she used online. "Day 3 of freedom from the farm." The ring light hummed. Her phone made a soft little sparkle sound as she started recording.
The old man's almost gone.
"Henry's finally unconscious,"
Looks like I won't have to wait
she
much
told her
longer for the
followers,
inheritance.
"so we can talk about upgrading our lives. No more rotting away on some broke, dusty farm in the middle of nowhere." My heart monitor jumped. The nurse probably thought it was pain.
Checking
It
in from
wasn't.
the ICU.
It was
This is
rage,
my father-in-law.
slow, steady,
Honestly,
old
I
man
expected
rage,
things to move a
the
little
kind that doesn't
faster.
yell, the kind that remembers.
Oh,
To
no,
understand
he's
why that
fainting.
moment mattered,
Thoughts
you
and
have to
prayers,
understand
everyone.
where we came
Don't forget
from.
to hit that like button.
My name is Henry Collins. I'm 68
You
years
look so
old.
peaceful.
I've spent my entire life on Collins Acres.
Anyway, I started
210
filming my new
acres
makeup
of
routine
dirt,
while I wait.
crops, and memories just outside Maple Ridge, Kansas.
Check it out.
About
Still
40 minutes
completely
from
out of
Wichita, if the traffic behaves.
Honestly, how
My
long
grandfather
does it take?
built the Red Barn in 1930, back when the country was holding its
Look,
breath
finally
through the
kicked
Great
the
Depression.
bucket.
The farmhouse
There
went
won't
up in
be needing that
1956,
inheritance
the
anytime
same
soon.
year they brought me home from the hospital, wrapped in a
Hey
blanket that
guys,
smelled
update on
faintly
the old
like
man.
diesel and hay.
Looks like he won't be kicking
Nothing
that
about the
bucket
place would
anytime
impress
soon,
Madison's
sadly.
followers.
Keep liking for
The
more.
paint's faded, the porch steps creak. The kitchen cabinets are the exact color of guacamole from the 1970s. But every nail, every scratch on the floor
Look, everyone,
has a story
my
attached to
father-in-law
it.
here is finally
That's the
getting
part
what he
people who
deserves.
live online
What a
never
pathetic
quite
sight.
grasp.
Don't forget to
Luke
follow
is
me
my
for
only
updates.
child. His mother,
guys,
Claire, died of
update on
breast
the old
cancer
man.
10 years ago.
Doesn't look like he's
He was
making
21, still half a
Sucks
boy,
to be him, I
trying to
guess.
figure out how to be a man while watching his anchor disappear. I did
Hey,
what
TikTok.
farmers do when we're hurting.
Guess who's
I
about
went
to
back
be
to work,
significantly
back to the
richer?
barn, back to the ledgers and the soil tests,
This room holds
and the
so
broken
many
fences.
stories, doesn't it?
Luke left for college
He
in
remembers
Wichita,
his
got a
mother
job in
rocking in
IT,
that
came home on
very chair
holidays.
by the fire.
He always promised he'd come back and
as
help
the
with the
fire
farm one day.
crackled that night,
I never held
just
him
like
to
it
it.
is now,
Love
he
isn't a
knew his
rope
life
you
would
tie around
never
someone's
truly
ankle.
be the same again.
Then he met
It was
Madison
in that
Pierce.
moment, looking back
The first time
now,
I saw
that
her was
everything
Thanksgiving,
changed.
3 years
The
before
farm
that
was
hospital
saved,
room.
but the cost was almost
Luke
too
pulled
much
into the
to bear.
driveway in a clean rental car,
He
and
spent
out
his
stepped Madison
entire
in
life
white boots
right
and a
here in this
camel-colored coat
valley,
that looked
watching
like
the
it had
seasons
never met
turn
dirt
from
before.
this very porch.
Her parents used to own a small vineyard
And
in
when they
Northern
finally
California,
closed the farm
Pierce
gates
Ridge
for the
Wines,
last time,
before the
he
2008
knew
crash
deep
chewed them
down
up and spat
that
them
a
out.
part of him was
They
staying
still
right
talked
there.
about it like they were minor
Looking
royalty
back
who'd been
now,
exiled.
after all these years,
Madison carried that
the
attitude like a
quiet
designer
moments
handbag.
were the ones
Literally,
that truly mattered.
Hermes, if you're wondering.
He
I
built
know
this
the
house
brand
with
because
his
she
own
made
hands,
sure
and
everyone in
every
the room
plank
knew.
holds a memory of
She
the
stepped
life
into
they
my
shared
farmhouse,
here.
took in the wood-paneled walls and the
And as
mismatched
he
chairs,
sat there,
and
looking
smiled.
at the fire,
Not a warm
he
smile,
couldn't help
not a
but
polite
wonder
one.
if he'd made
The
the
kind
right
of smile you
choice
give a
all
thrift
those
store
years
you
ago.
only went into for a joke. Wow, she said, turning in a slow circle. This is so authentic. That word, authentic, has become one of the ugliest words in the English language to me. Luke didn't notice the look. Love makes people blind, dads included. From the very beginning, Madison treated our farm like it was a backdrop, not a home. We'd be sitting at the kitchen table, and she'd angle her phone just right to catch the chipped mugs and the old floral tablecloth. "Guys, look," she'd whisper to her front camera. "This is where my husband grew up. Isn't it wild?" She never outright insulted us at first, just little digs disguised as jokes. "My father-in-law still uses a rotary phone," she giggled in one story. Actually, like we're visiting a living museum." The comments rolled in. "Girl, you're slumming it. You're so brave for marrying down. This is so aesthetic, but also so sad." Luke would blush and shrug and say things like, "She's just playing around, Dad. It's funny. It's her job." I told myself I was being thin-skinned. Told myself the world had changed and I needed to get used to people filming everything. But it's one thing to film your food. It's another thing to turn someone's whole life into a punchline. 6 months into their marriage, Madison's content started to shift. She wasn't just visiting the countryside anymore. She was exposing it. One afternoon, I was out by the barn checking the sprayer when I heard her voice drifting from the open kitchen window. "Generational poverty is real, you guys," she was saying to the camera, panning across my old stove and laminate counters. "Some families just accept being left behind. They tell themselves it's noble to struggle." She opened my fridge, held up a gallon of store-brand milk. "This is what I mean," she sighed. "They won't spend money even when they have it. They literally think wanting nice things is selfish." Her follower count shot up. 40,060. Brands started commenting. "We love this authentic content. DM us. We'd love to work together." She logged off one night, tossed her phone on my handmade table, and laughed. "Poor farm life is such a content gold mine," she told Luke, thinking I couldn't hear from the living room. "People are obsessed with this real America stuff." Luke tried to push back. Just a little. "Dad built something here, Maddie. This farm. It's not a joke to him." She rolled her eyes so hard I could feel the breeze from the next room. "Built what? A shrine to refusing progress. He's stuck in 1950, Luke. And if we're not careful, he'll drag us down with him." The video that really set everything on fire came a few weeks before my heart gave out. She set up her tripod right in our living room. I was out in the fields that day, finishing up some soil sampling. When I came home, Luke was hunched over his phone on the couch, jaw tight. "Something wrong?" I asked. He locked his screen so fast you'd have thought I'd caught him watching porn as a teenager. "Nothing, Dad. It's fine." Later that night, while he was in the shower, his phone lit up on the coffee table. The preview text showed Madison's username and the notification, Your video just hit 2.3M views. I don't snoop. I never have. But I'm not stupid either. I found the video on my own account. Didn't even have to search hard. It was everywhere. The caption read, "When your in-laws confuse suffering with being noble." She started in the hallway, camera facing her. Perfect makeup, soft lighting, that little, I'm just being honest, tilt to her head. "I've been documenting generational poverty for months now," she said, "and I think it's finally time to show you the heart of it." Then she turned the camera and walked into my living room. She panned across the old couch, faded, sure, but still sturdy. The carpet, same one Claire and I picked out together 30 years ago. "This couch has permanent body impressions," she said, laughing softly. "This carpet, I'm pretty sure it's seen at least 3 decades. This isn't humble living. This is giving up." Then she zoomed in on the bookshelf. On my father's silver star, simple black frame, no spotlight, just sitting between 2 old farming almanacs. "Even their war memorabilia looks bargain basement," she smirked, like the clearance rack of patriotism. In the comments, people laughed. Others defended us. A war vet wrote, "Ma'am, that bargain basement metal cost someone their sanity." Madison replied with a laughing emoji. I didn't confront her. Not then, not yet. My father used to say, "Never swing at a hog when it's in the mud, Henry. Let it tire itself out first. Then you can decide whether it's worth washing." A week later, my chest started burning like someone had poured gasoline in my veins. Luke rushed me to the ER. They did the scans, the tests, and suddenly nurses were moving faster, voices tight. "Mr. Collins, we're going to need to take you in for a procedure," a cardiologist said. "Arteries more blocked than we'd like." I remembered signing some form. I remembered Luke squeezing my hand and saying, "Don't you dare go anywhere, old man." I remember Madison filming a soft focus story in the waiting room about medical anxiety and hospital vibes. Then, everything went white. When I woke up again, it was like surfacing from the bottom of a pond. Heavy, murky sound coming back one muffled noise at a time. Beep, 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 oxygen hiss, a chair scraping, and then Madison's voice. Soft, sweet, deadly. "Okay, guys," she whispered, "this is going to be a little more serious than usual." I could picture her without opening my eyes. Hair perfectly curled, lip gloss on, phone held up at 15 degrees above eye level. "Day 3 of freedom from the farm," she said again, like this was some detox retreat instead of my potential deathbed. We're still at the hospital. Henry's sedated, so it's finally safe to talk about what's really going on. She sighed. A little tremble added for drama. "I love my husband," she said. But he grew up in straight-up trailer trash energy, old carpet, old furniture, old mindset. His dad would rather cling to a dying farm than admit it's time to move on. Every word landed like a stone in my chest. Not because I was surprised she felt that way. I'd known for a while. But hearing her use my unconscious body as her stage prop, that was new. "I've been documenting this for months," she continued, "and you guys have been so supportive. Like, I really believe there's a generation of us refusing to inherit our parents' poverty mindset." She shifted in the chair. The heart monitor reflected my pulse quickening. "We're working on a plan," she confided to the camera. "Luke and I are going to sell the farm and finally move somewhere with opportunities. Somewhere clean. Somewhere that doesn't smell like mildew and tractor grease." She laughed softly. "He's too sentimental to say it. But I know he's relieved Henry's out of it right now. It's easier to make decisions when the past is quiet. Quiet. That's what I was to her. Not a father-in-law, not a man, just the past, finally quiet. I lay there, eyes shut, fingers curling, just a little around the edge of the blanket. She had no idea I could hear every word. She had no idea I'd been quietly building something far bigger than any of her followers could imagine. She had no idea that the poverty museum she was mocking was the front porch of a $50 million empire. In that moment, as she turned my hospital room into her content studio, I made a decision. I could confront her, beg her to stop, demand respect. Or I could let her keep talking, let her dig her own hole, let her tell the entire internet exactly who she really was. Then, when she was standing on the highest stage she could find, I'd show her what it feels like when the lights flip and the truth comes on. I didn't know it yet, but that was the night I stopped being just a dad trying to keep the peace and became a man preparing for war. I didn't sleep much after that day 3 of freedom from the farm speech. The drugs pulled at me, but anger is a hell of a stimulant. The next morning, the room was dim, the blinds half closed, Luke gone home to shower. Madison sat in the visitor's chair, scrolling through her phone, legs crossed, designer sneaker bouncing in time with the beep of my heart monitor. I was awake, but I kept my eyes shut. I'd learned something over the years. You find out who people are when they think you're not looking. My phone was on the tray table next to the bed, within reach if I moved slow enough. Madison's phone rang. The ringer was off, but I heard the faint buzz and the little whoosh as she answered. "Hi, this is Madison Collins," she said, voice snapping from bored scroll to business bright. "Is this Erica from Heartland Realty?" I moved my fingers a fraction of an inch, just enough to touch my own phone. "Yeah, thanks for calling me back," she went on. "I wanted to follow up about that property listing we talked about." Property listing? There are 210 acres in my life that fit that description. I slid my thumb to the side of my phone and, without opening my eyes, pressed and held the button to start a voice recording. "Yes, the farm out on County Line Road," she said. "My father-in-law's place, the one with the red barn and the old farmhouse. That's the one." There was a pause while the realtor talked. I could picture her nodding, even though no one could see her. Influencers perform even when there's no camera. "Right, so, situation update," Madison said, lowering her voice like this was confidential instead of treachery in a hospital hallway. "Henry's incapacitated right now." My blood pressure monitor beeped a little faster. "He had a heart procedure yesterday, and, there were some complications," she continued. "The doctor said recovery is going to be long. He's sedated in and out of it. He won't be making any big decisions for a while." Another pause. I imagined the realtor asking cautious questions. Liability, authority, paperwork. "Yes, my husband has power of attorney," Madison said quickly. "He can sign. Henry did all the paperwork last year. Trust me, we checked with a lawyer already." "No, you didn't," I thought. "You checked with Google and Instagram." "The appraiser came back with $920,000 for the whole package," she said. "Land, house, barn, outbuildings, the whole depressing museum." Another pause. I could almost hear the realtor raise an eyebrow. "No, I know it sounds low for that much acreage," Madison said, "but you have to understand the condition. This place has been neglected. Nothing updated, everything stuck in a different century." She stood up and started pacing. I heard her sneakers move from tile to hallway carpet. "To be honest," she said, This isn't just about money. It's about cleaning up what's holding everyone back. She let out a little laugh. My father-in-law is basically the poster child for old white farmer hoarding land while young families struggle. He's been sitting on these acres forever, doing the same thing over and over, and somehow the town is supposed to applaud him for it. I could practically hear the realtor swallow. The truth? Madison continued, lowering her voice even more. I'm doing everyone a favor getting this into the hands of developers. We could have new homes out there, a shopping center, maybe even a medical complex. Actual jobs, not just one stubborn old man clinging to his dirt museum. Dirt museum. Trailer trash. Poverty shrine. She had a whole vocabulary for my life. The realtor must have asked about me directly. Henry? Madison said. 68. Been farming the same way since he could walk. No business sense whatsoever. Still handwrites his accounting in ledger books. And I'm not exaggerating. He literally doesn't trust computers. She stopped pacing. I heard the little tap of her nail against the phone case. He's the kind of man who will die at that kitchen table before he admits the world changed without him, she added. So we kind of have to help the change along. The monitor behind my head kept counting.
Sitting
steady,
here with him now,
controlled.
you can still see the memories.
You
in his
asked about
eyes.
timing? She
The
said
weight
after
of
a pause.
lifetime etched into
Honestly,
his
this is
expression.
perfect.
And as he looked
He'll be in
back on that
recovery for
winter,
weeks,
the one
maybe
thing
months,
he
and,
remembered most
I mean,
wasn't the cold,
I don't want to sound
but
harsh,
the quiet warmth of
but at
the
his
mornings
age,
by the
with his
fire.
heart, he might
told
not
me
be in
that
any
leaving
position
home
to
that
decide
day was
much
the
for very
hardest thing
long.
he'd ever done.
I
But
flexed
looking
my
back,
fingers under the
He
blanket,
wouldn't change a thing.
just enough to remind
He
myself that I
spent
was
40
very
years
much
working
alive.
that land just beyond
Luke's
these
the one with
walls,
legal authority right
facing
now,
down every
Madison went
drought
on,
and hardship
and I've been
imaginable.
working on him.
He
Showing
carried
him
that
what
secret
920,000
with him
could
for
mean.
nearly 50
A real
years,
house in Kansas City
never
or
breathing a
Denver
word of
or
it
Austin,
until today.
somewhere with actual culture.
When I asked him
Good
about
schools
his
for
late
our
wife,
future
the
kids,
first thing he
not
mentioned
cornfields
was her
and a
laugh.
diner with $1.50
It's
coffee
been 40
forever.
years, but he still hears
She
it
paused,
sometimes.
probably
It
scrolling
wasn't
through
just
something
the
on her
land,
phone with
was
her
it?
free hand.
It was
I
the
told him,
legacy of everyone
"Do you
who
really
came
want to
before
raise our
you,
babies in
the
a house where the
dust
walls
and
are
the
literally
dreams."
stained with cigarette smoke from the
And as he
80s?
sat there,
She
looking
said,
at the life
laughing.
he'd built,
If that's his version
realized
of
that
legacy,
every
I'm not
struggle
signing
was
my
worth
children
the
up for
view
it.
from the rocking chair.
She didn't mention that those stains were from nights my father sat up chain smoking after getting draft letters for his friends. People like Madison only see surfaces. The neighbors will thank us too, she added. Everyone's tired of looking at that eyesore. Peeling paint, broken fencing, rusty equipment lying around. It drags down property values for miles. This isn't a farm, it's a poverty museum. She let those words hang in the air. Then, look, I didn't marry into this family to be poor forever, she said matter-of-factly. I thought there would be hidden assets. You know how people always say farmers are land rich? Yeah, turns out some of them are just land poor. Really, really poor. She had no idea she was holding the wrong script. The realtor must have started wrapping up because Madison's tone shifted into closing mode. So yeah, she said, I'm ready when you are. We want to get this listed while Henry's still in recovery. Once Luke sees the offers on paper, he'll sign. He has to. I just need the numbers to help him see reality. They said their polite goodbyes. The call ended. Madison walked back into my room like nothing had happened, sat down, opened TikTok, started scrolling through comments calling her brave for breaking cycles. My recording was still running, every word captured, every insult preserved. She thought she was framing her narrative. She had no clue she'd just given me evidence. When she finally left to grab coffee, I opened my eyes, stopped the recording, and saved it to a folder labeled for later. Then I stared at the ceiling and did what I've always done when something threatens my land, my family, or my name. I started counting backward. Not from 10. From years. People like Madison think farms are just dirt and nostalgia. They don't see the spreadsheets behind the soil tests. They don't see the contracts behind the corn. In 1988, I bought my first house that wasn't on Collins Acres. It was a foreclosed 2-bedroom on the edge of Maple Ridge. Paint peeling, roof leaking, yard full of rusted junk, and an upside-down kiddie pool. Bank wanted $16,000. I talked them down to $14,000, paid $6,000 cash from a good harvest, and financed the rest. I spent my evenings and weekends fixing it. New roof, new wiring, fresh paint, some cheap but decent carpet. 3 months later, I rented it to a young couple for $450 a month. That rent covered the mortgage, and then some. The then some went into a separate account I labeled Future.
This old house holds
By 1993,
so many memories
Future
for
had
him,
bought 3 more houses.
especially the
By
ones from that
1997,
long
it was
winter of
15.
1968.
While everyone thought I was just a
He
guy
told me
fixing
that,
fences,
those early
I was also a
years
guy reading about
shaped
cap rates
everything
and loan
that came
terms at night.
after. It wasn't
Farmers
easy,
learn to read the weather.
but it was
Turns
real.
out, if you squint,
He
you can learn
carried
to
that
read
memory
markets
with
too.
him for 50
Some of the
years.
rentals were
A
small
quiet
houses,
reminder
some
of a
duplexes,
promise
a
made
couple of
on a
4-unit
day
buildings.
just like this one.
None of them fancy, all
He
of them
told me he
solid.
felt the weight
By
of
the
the
time
world
Madison
lift
married
off his
Luke,
shoulders
I owned
the moment
24
he saw
rental
her
units
face.
across 3 counties.
It was a moment
Total
of pure
value,
grace.
just over $15
And that
million.
quiet
Monthly
strength,
rent, around
the kind you only
$70,000.
find in
Madison
places
saw
like
a
this,
rusty truck and assumed I
that's what
couldn't afford a
carried
new
them
one.
through the
She never
hardest
saw the
years.
titles in the barn safe.
It
The
wasn't
farm
just the
itself
farm you
changed
saved that
too.
day, was it?
In 2000,
It was your
I formed
family's
Collins
legacy,
Organics, LLC.
and you paid a heavy
I was
price
tired
for
of
it.
playing the same commodity game
Looking
as
back
every other
now,
farmer in
those
a
early years
100-mile
on the
radius.
farm were difficult,
We converted part of
but
the
they
acreage
truly
to organic
shaped the man he would
certification,
become.
started experimenting
And as
with
he
specialty
sat there,
grains,
looking at the
heirloom
empty fields,
varieties,
he knew his
crop
life would
rotations
never
the
be
big
same
guys
again.
weren't bothering with.
It was a bittersweet
By
goodbye.
2005, we weren't just selling soybeans and corn by the truckload to bulk elevators. We were signing contracts with regional grocery chains. By 2010, we had deals with Greenway Markets and a distribution company that serviced Whole Foods in the region. Madison saw rows of dirt. My banker saw $280,000 in monthly revenue and a business valued around $36 million. Then there were the extras, the things Madison bragged about without knowing whose wallet was behind them. In 2019, Cedar Ridge Country Club hit hard times. Membership dues were down, the owners had over-leveraged, and the bank was ready to close in. I liked the place. Luke learned to swim in that pool. Claire and I had our 25th anniversary dinner there. So I sat down with my lawyer, my accountant, and the bank. I formed Cedar Ridge Holdings LLC and bought the club for $3.4 million. We kept the management company in place, kept the staff, kept the members. The only thing that changed was the name on the deed and where the profits started going. 2 years later, when Charles and Elaine Pierce needed jobs, Cedar Ridge happened to be hiring. Charles became ground supervisor, $60,000 a year. Benefits, paid time off. Elaine became catering manager, $46,000 a year, plus bonuses when events went well. They were good at their jobs, they showed up on time, worked hard, smiled at members, took pride in their work. They never knew who signed off on their paychecks. Why would they? Their checks came from Cedar Ridge Management, Inc. The owner was just the holdings company. Madison liked to post about how her parents had bounced back through grit and talent. She never tagged the man behind the curtain. Her grandmother, Evelyn, ended up at Silver Pines Assisted Living after a fall 3 years ago. Charles and Elaine couldn't afford private care. Medicare covered part of it, but not the nice room with the garden view, the one Madison loved to film when she visited. So, the Collins Family Foundation, which I started with some of the rental profits, took on the rest. We paid $3,000 a month to cover the remaining costs. For 4 years, about $144,000 in total. Madison's caption on one of those visits read, "Family takes care of family. That's real generational wealth." She wasn't wrong. She just misidentified which family was doing the heavy lifting. The private school where Madison's little sister teaches, Oakview Academy, up on the hill near town. The board was about to shut it down in 2021 over funding issues. I bought 52% of the voting shares through another little LLC. Madison bragged about her family's education connections. I never bothered to mention that her brother-in-law's job depended partly on my reluctance to see another local school die. Even the apartment building where Luke and Madison live, Willow Terrace Apartments, ended up in my portfolio last year when the previous landlord went belly up. Unit 3-4, their unit. I knocked a bit off the rent, told the management company to treat them like any other tenants on paper. I didn't want my son feeling like a child living in Daddy's house. Lying in that hospital bed, listening to Madison talk about escaping poverty, it hit me all at once. For 3 years, the Pierce family had been floating on a river I had dug, and now their most vocal member was trying to dam it up behind my back and sell the riverbed for parts. I could have yanked the plug right then. Called Cedar Ridge, Silver Pines, Oakview, the apartment management company. Stopped everything cold. But my father's voice came back to me. "You don't teach people much by stopping them the first time they do wrong." He used to say, "Sometimes you have to let them walk themselves right up to the cliff edge so they can see how far down it really is." So I made a plan. First call, my lawyer, Mark Hanley. "Mark, it's Henry," I said once the nurse left and I had a moment alone. My voice came out rough, but steady. "Henry? You're supposed to be resting," he said. "You okay?" "I will be," I replied. "I need you to do something for me." I told him about the videos, the captions, the comments, the phone call about selling the farm while I was incapacitated. "Document everything," I said. "Screenshots of every post, every story we can still see, every comment where she calls me trailer trash, poverty, whatever. Download that call recording into evidence. I want it all time-stamped, organized, and backed up 6 ways." "Are you planning to sue?" he asked. "I'm planning to educate," I answered. "If I have to sue, I want to do it with a complete textbook." Second call, my accountant, Janet Wu. "Janet, I need a portfolio summary," I told her. Everything, Collins Organics, Collins Properties, Cedar Ridge, Oakview, Willow Terrace, the foundation. She hesitated. "Is this for estate planning?" she asked gently. "Do we need to worry about—" "Nothing you don't already worry about," I cut in. "This is for education too. Family education this time." "I'll have it on your desk in 2 days," she said. "Neat, clear. With numbers even a TikTok influencer can understand." I chuckled despite myself. My chest hurt when I did, but it felt good. Third call, Cedar Ridge Country Club, to the general manager, Neil Patel. "Neil, it's Henry Collins," I said. He immediately asked how I was feeling. I gave him the short version. Then I got to the point. "I want to schedule staff performance reviews," I told him, "specifically for Charles and Elaine Pierce. Nothing dramatic, public, during the next all-staff meeting." "Public?" he repeated. "That's new." "We'll call it a transparency initiative," I said. "And also, Neil, I want a reminder sent to all staff about our social media and reputation policies. Make it crystal clear that any public behavior that harms the club's reputation or its members can affect employment." He was quiet for a moment, then said, Understood, sir. We'll have everyone re-sign the policy acknowledgement. Fourth call, later that afternoon, was to the director at Silver Pines and the administrator for the Collins Family Foundation. As part of our regular review, I said carefully, I want to reassess all long-term commitments, especially ones where the recipient families may have had changes in circumstances. The foundation bylaws were clear. Support could be redirected if recipients or their families actively undermined the donors or the mission. We had written those lines thinking about politics and scandals. I never imagined they'd apply to a girl with a ring light and a victim complex. Later that evening, Luke came back to the hospital. He looked like he hadn't slept, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. Dad, he said, slumping into the chair next to my bed. How are you feeling? Like someone tried to snake a garden hose through my chest and overcharged me for it,
And as
I
he
said.
sat there, looking at the life
He laughed
built,
weakly, then
the
he rubbed
weight
his
of those
face with
early
both
years
hands.
Finally started to
Madison's been talking about
It wasn't
changes,
easy, he told me.
he said.
He had seen so much
Selling
in
the
his
farm,
life, faced
moving closer to the
challenges I
city.
could barely
She keeps saying
imagine.
it's for our
But
future
sitting
kids, for
here,
better
you
schools, for
realize the
opportunities.
weight of those memories.
I watched him carefully.
Looking back now, he realizes
Do you
how
agree with her?
tired he truly was.
He stared at the floor.
Carrying that secret
I don't
all
know,
those years
he
in
said.
silence.
She keeps telling me we're
He
drowning
spent 40
financially,
years building
that
this
you're too
farm
proud
with his
to admit
own
it,
2 hands.
that
Every
you've been hiding how
sunrise was
bad
a
it is so I
testament
won't
to his
worry.
dedication. He told
I
me
let
that
that sit
leaving
there for a
home was
beat.
the hardest thing he ever
Luke,
had to do.
I asked quietly.
The
Do you
memories
trust your
still
wife's
live in
judgment
this
about our
house.
family's worth?
He carried
swallowed.
that secret with him for 60
I
years.
trust that she thinks she's
sitting
doing the right
right
thing,
here in
he
this
said
very
finally.
room.
But
He
some
built
things
this place
aren't
with
adding
his
up,
own
Dad,
hands.
he sighed.
Every
If we're
plank
so
holds the
broke,
memory of
how
a
do you still
life
have the
well
farm?
lived and
Why do you
loved
never ask me
right
for
here.
money even though I make good money in town? Why have I never seen a single foreclosure notice or overdue bill? I felt a small, tired smile tug at my mouth. Maybe, I said, because we're not drowning. He looked up sharply. We'll talk when I'm out of here, I told him. I'll show you everything. But I want you to know this now. Your wife is building a story, and right now, she's writing us as poor and pathetic, because it pays her. He flinched like I'd slapped him. She's not a bad person, Dad, he said. She just sees the world differently. People show you who they are when money's on the table, I replied. And right now, there's $920,000 of my dollars on that table. He didn't have an answer for that. We sat in silence, listening to the machines. By the time they told me I'd be discharged in a couple of days, the dates had lined up in my head. Discharge, October 10th. Realtor walkthrough Madison had hinted about the weekend after. And the Cedar Ridge Charity Gala, our county's biggest night of the year, 5 days after that. Madison thought she was on a countdown to her new, upgraded life, closing on my poverty museum, posting a moving vlog, walking into a ballroom like she finally belonged. She didn't realize I was counting down, too. Not to the end of the farm, to the end of her illusion. They discharged me on a gray Thursday morning. October 10th, the kind of sky that looks like someone stretched a damp sheet over the whole town. The nurse went over medication schedules and warning signs, handed Luke a packet thick enough to be a college textbook, and told me to avoid stress. I wanted to laugh. Avoid stress. While my daughter-in-law was trying to sell my life out from under me. Luke wheeled me out of Maple Ridge Regional in a squeaky wheelchair. Madison walked beside us, phone in her hand, camera pointed away from me but always ready to pivot. Guys, we're finally taking Henry home, she narrated softly into her mic. It's been a journey. Please keep him in your prayers while we navigate some big changes. I kept my face neutral for the camera. Old habit. Never show a bull your full weight until you know which way it's charging. Luke helped me into my truck. We'd left it at the hospital lot when the ambulance brought me in. He offered to drive. I let him. Madison trailed behind us in her white BMW, already posting an Instagram story about transitions and closing one chapter to open another. She had no idea how literally that was about to be true. The farm looked the same as when I'd left it, which was exactly the point. The red barn leaned just slightly, more from age than neglect. The house paint flaked in strips along the west side. The windmill creaked a little in the breeze. To Madison's followers, it was proof of decay. To me, it was proof that something could survive longer than the people who mocked it. Luke helped me up the porch steps. Madison filmed our progress from the driveway, caption ready to go, helping the older generation transition with grace. Inside, she fussed over where I should sit, what angle the recliner should be at, whether we needed more pillows. It wasn't kindness, it was staging. "Luke, babe," she said, hovering near the doorway. "Remember, the realtor's coming on Saturday at 2 to do the walkthrough. It would be really helpful if we could have the place looking as, untampered with as possible." My son glanced at me, then back at her. "We'll see," he said. "Dad just got home. We're not doing anything huge today." She smiled tightly. "Of course. Rest first. Then we can talk about the future." I waited until I heard the BMW start up and roll down the drive before I spoke. "Luke." "Yeah, Dad?" "I want you to help me get to the barn." He blinked. "The barn? Now? You just got out of the hospital." "I'm not planning on plowing a field," I said. "I just need you to drive me over there and maybe haul one box back." He hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. If you promise to stop when you're tired." "I'll stop when we're finished," I replied. The barn has always been my real office. Not the kitchen table, not some fancy co-working space in town. On the left, there's a bay for the tractor and combine. On the right, behind a sliding door, is a small room my father walled off in 1962. We called it the office, long before I knew what an office was supposed to look like. Luke parked as close as he could to the side entrance. He helped me shuffle across the gravel, one hand on my arm, the other ready to catch me if I slipped. Inside the office, it smelled like old paper, engine oil, and the faint sweetness of hay dust. My wooden desk sat under the small window, scarred by decades of elbows, mug rings, and the sharp corners of ledger books. "Sit," I told Luke, nodding at the stool by the wall. He sat. He looked less like a grown man with a salary and more like the boy who once did his homework on that same stool while I reconciled crop expenses. I opened the bottom drawer. The key was where I had always hidden it, taped to the underside of the desk. I unlocked the metal box inside and pulled out a thick tabbed binder plus a stack of folders with Janet's neat handwriting on the labels. "Dad, what is all this?" Luke asked. "This," I said, dropping the binder onto the desk with a solid thump, "is why I didn't flinch when Madison called our farm a poverty museum." I opened the binder to the first section. Collins Organics, LLC, Summary. Janet had pulled everything into simple charts. She knew I preferred numbers I could see and touch. "Start here," I told Luke. "Read the top line." He leaned in. "Gross monthly revenue, $282,000 average over last 24 months, he read slowly. "Net profit margin, 22%. "Roughly," I said. "It fluctuates with fuel and fertilizer prices, but that's the ballpark." He blinked. "So that means profit is like 62,000 a month on average." I finished for him. before depreciation. After payroll, he sat back. I thought farming barely broke even. For some folks, it does, I said. For the ones playing the old game, I changed the rules 20 years ago. Nobody was paying attention, so nobody noticed. I flipped to the valuation page. Independent business assessment last year, I told him. Collins Organics estimated value $38.5 million. Luke's mouth opened, then closed, like he'd forgotten how to form words. Next binder tab, Collins Properties, LLC. Read the property summary, I said quietly. He cleared his throat. 24 residential units across Maple Ridge, Halford, and Union County. Total current market value, $15.3 million. Keep going. Average monthly rental income, $71,400. Net after expenses and reserves, $42,000. He looked up. Dad, you've been making over $100,000 a month between the farm and the properties. On good months, yes, I said. On bad months, a little less. Over the last decade, I've put most of it back into the land, the houses, and the foundation. He stared at the pages, then at our faded barn walls, then back at me. Why do you still live like this? He asked. Why not new house, new truck, vacations, all of it? I reached into the drawer again and pulled out an old photograph of my parents standing in front of the same barn. My father's hands were calloused. My mother's apron was patched in 2 places. Because living simple and being poor aren't the same thing, I said. Your grandmother grew up in the Depression. She taught me early that loud money makes you a target. Quiet money makes you free. I handed him another folder. Cedar Ridge Holdings, LLC. Recognize this? I asked, tapping the logo. He frowned. That's Cedar Ridge Country Club's logo, he said. Wait, Cedar Ridge Holdings. Dad, are you... I pointed at the first page. Owner, Henry Collins, sole member. I bought the club in 2019, I said, for $3.4 million through the holding company. Kept it quiet. It makes decent money, but more importantly, it keeps a lot of folks employed. Luke let out a slow breath. So Madison's parents, all this time, worked for me. I finished. They work hard. They do a good job. I never saw a reason to rub their noses in who owned the place. I slid the last business folder across the desk. Collins Family Foundation. Open to the Evelyn Pierce line, I told him. He skimmed, then froze. Silver Pines Assisted Living. He read. Supplemental care funding. $3,000 per month for 48 months. Total contributions, $144,000. His voice cracked a little on the last number. You've been paying for Nana Evelyn's room this whole time? Since before Madison and I met, I said. Your mother would have wanted it. Our family had the means. Theirs didn't. He sank back against the stool, pressing his palms into his knees like he needed to ground himself. Add it up, Luke, I said quietly. The organics business, the properties, the club, the school shares, the apartment complex. Janet's estimate last quarter put our total assets just over $52 million. He stared at me. We're rich? I shook my head. We're responsible, I said. We own things that make money and feed families. That's different from rich, the way Madison uses it. Designer bags and sponsored skincare. I let that settle. Then I said the part I'd been saving. And right now, I went on, that is what your wife is trying to sell off for $920,000 because she thinks she's too good for the place that built it. Luke bowed his head, hands gripping his hair. I didn't know, he whispered. I know, I said. I never told you. That's on me.
And it was right
He looked
here,
up sharply.
in this very room,
But she didn't even ask. She just decided you were broke.
To build a life away
Because
from
that's the
city
story
life.
that pays,
And it
I
was
replied.
in that moment,
I married into a secret millionaire family doesn't get as many brand deals as I'm the brave woman escaping generational poverty.
And it was in that
He
moment,
winced.
sitting
He'd heard
by
the phrase,
fire,
he'd watched the
that he
videos.
realized
Where does that leave you,
everything
son?
was about
I
to
asked.
change.
He swallowed.
And you remember
I love
that
her,
day so
he said,
clearly, even after
but
all these
I don't
years.
recognize the person she's
It was
playing
the moment
online,
everything
and I don't know
changed
which
for
one
the
is real
family.
anymore.
Looking
I
back
nodded.
now, after all
You don't
these
have to
years,
decide that
he
today,
says the hardest
I said.
part wasn't the leaving.
But you do have to
It
decide
was
whether
the
you're going to
silence
stand
that came
by while she
after.
drags our name through the
Looking
mud
back
and
at the
tries to sell the
farmhouse
mud
where he
from
spent
under our
his
feet.
childhood, he realizes
Silence
now
settled
that those
between
quiet
us,
moments were the
heavy
ones
but
that
not
truly
empty.
mattered.
Finally, he drew in a breath like
And it
someone
was
about to
there,
dive.
in that very field,
I'm with you,
that
Dad,
realized
he said.
everything was
Whatever
about to
you're planning,
change.
I'm with you. Good, I answered. Because it's not just about us anymore. It's about teaching your wife and her audience what real consequences look like. The next 2 days felt like loading a long, slow freight train. Once it got moving, it would be hard to stop. But getting all the cars lined up took work. Mark sent over a digital folder with every screenshot he'd collected. There were videos I'd never seen. Madison filming herself in my fields, bare ankle balanced on a tractor tire, captioned, "Out here visiting the poverty ancestors so my future kids don't have to." Another clip showed my kitchen at 6 a.m., coffee pot sputtering in the background, me just out of frame. He gets up before dawn every day to keep this place barely afloat, she told the camera in a faux sad voice. But there's something tragic about a man who would rather die on a piece of land than admit he needs help. I'd made coffee that morning because I wanted it, not because I was performing for her story about tragedy. Mark had also clipped comments from her Escaping Generational Poverty series. At first, they were the usual chorus. "You're so strong. Break those cycles, girl. Your in-laws are lucky you're showing them the light." But as the weeks passed and the videos got meaner, a different kind of comment started appearing. Under one video where she zoomed in on my worn boots, someone had written, "You talk a lot of trash for someone carrying a 10K bag." Another asked, "If they're so poor, why don't you help them instead of mocking them for content?" A third, "This feels icky. Are they okay with you posting this?" Madison replied to that last one with a heart emoji and the words, "Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable." She had no idea whose truth she was walking toward. On Friday, Janet drove out to the farm herself. She's the kind of woman who believes important things should be handed over in person, not emailed. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one Madison had called Furniture Poverty, and went through the portfolio she'd printed. "This is everything you asked for," she said, sliding the stack toward me. Organized by entity, total asset summary. At the end, I highlighted the donation history from the foundation for you to... Luke sat with us, quiet, absorbing. "Janet," he said after a minute, Did you ever think it was weird that my wife was posting about us being poor?" Janet folded her hands. "I don't make a habit of commenting on clients' families," she said. "But I will say this. Optics can change faster than numbers. The numbers have been solid for a long time." She stood to leave, then paused. "My grandmother came from a village in China where nobody had shoes," she added. "She always told me, real wealth doesn't need witnesses. Just remember that tomorrow night." Tomorrow night, the Cedar Ridge Charity Gala. Our stage. While we prepared in the real world, the online world kept spinning. On Saturday morning, Madison posted what she called her most honest video yet. I watched it on Luke's phone at the barn desk. She stood in our living room, hair in perfect waves, wearing a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than my first truck. Today, she told her followers, I want to talk about something deeper than just aesthetics. I want to talk about what it means to outgrow where you came from. She gestured to our furniture. Sometimes, she said, love isn't enough to live in a place that's stuck in the past. Sometimes you have to choose between honoring your elders and protecting your future children. Then she looked straight into the camera, eyes shining with rehearsed vulnerability. So yes, she said, we're selling my husband's childhood home. We're saying goodbye to the farm so our family can grow. And I won't apologize for refusing to pass down a poverty mindset. She launched into hashtags, breaking cycles, or escape poverty, whose hard truths. The view count climbed fast, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, but so did the comments, and this time, they sounded different. Luke scrolled slowly, reading them aloud. Wait, one said, didn't you just post a haul of $400 skincare? I'm confused about who's actually poor here. Another, as someone who grew up in actual poverty, I would have killed for a stable home and land. This feels like punching down. A third, why not use your platform to help your in-laws upgrade instead of mocking them and selling their home? Mixed in with the praise now were longer, angrier replies. You sound like you hate where your husband came from. This doesn't feel like healing, it feels like humiliation. Someone claiming to be from Maple Ridge commented, I live in this town. Collins Acres feeds a lot of families. You leaving doesn't feel like progress to us. Madison replied to the critical ones less often now. When she did, it was with vague lines about my truth and you don't see what I see behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, she was standing on a fault line. It just hadn't split open yet. Meanwhile, the pressure I'd quietly applied started reaching the Pierce family. On Saturday afternoon, Charles received an email from Cedar Ridge HR, mandatory performance review, Tuesday 10 a.m., all staff attendance required. He showed it to Elaine. Her email contained the same notice. Public reviews? She frowned. They've never done that before. There was also an attachment. Updated social media policy. Bolded sentences about behavior that reflects negatively on club reputation or owners, and breach of trust via online content. Elaine bit her lip. You don't post anything about work, right? She asked. No, he said. I barely know how to use Facebook. Madison tags the club sometimes, she murmured, but always in a positive way, I think. They didn't yet connect the dots between owners and the man their daughter was calling trailer trash. Back at Silver Pines, Evelyn's facility director got a letter from the Collins Family Foundation. It was polite, formal, without a single wasted word. As part of our periodic review, it read, we will be reassessing continued support for several recipients whose family circumstances may have changed. Please be prepared to provide updated documentation of financial need and family support capacity for Mrs. Evelyn Pierce. The director frowned when she read it. Evelyn was a model resident. Her family visited regularly. What changed circumstances could there be? She called Elaine to schedule a meeting. Elaine hung up feeling queasy, like the floor of their life had shifted half an inch under her feet. At Willow Terrace, the management company received a call from my attorney, Mark. He reminded them of the clauses in tenant leases about behavior that endangers community reputation and online harassment of other residents or owners. He asked for documentation on Unit 304. He did not mention that the owner of the building was the same farmer being mocked for sport online. They agreed to prepare the files. They always did when lawyers got involved. By Saturday night, my plan was loaded. All that was left was to decide how public the lesson would be. I sat at the kitchen table with Luke, portfolio spread between us, my heart beating a little too fast under my shirt. "Dad," he said quietly, "are you sure you want to do this at the gala? In front of everyone?" "I've spent 3 years helping her family quietly," I said. "I've spent 3 months listening to her throw my name around online like it was trash." I looked him in the eye. "I think a public problem deserves a public correction." He swallowed. "What about her parents?" he asked. "They're good people, Dad. They didn't ask for this." "They didn't," I agreed. "And I'll remember that when it's time to decide how far the fallout goes." I tapped the binder. "But your wife made content out of our pain," I said. "She made money off the story that we were beneath her." She never thought to ask where the roof over her grandmother's head came from. Silence again. Then Luke nodded. "Okay," he said. "Tomorrow, we show them the truth." Tomorrow, the ballroom, the lights, the moment when performed wealth met the quiet kind head on. I went to bed early that night, not because I wasn't tired, but because I knew the next evening would be long. As I lay there in the dark, I thought about something my father told me when I took over the farm. When a storm's coming, he'd said, you can't stop the clouds. All you can do is make sure your roof is sound and your doors are latched. My roof was sound. My doors were latched. My ledger was balanced. The storm was almost here. The night of the Cedar Ridge Charity Gala arrived dressed in crystal and white linen. October 12th, 350 of the county's most influential citizens, at least that's what the invitation said, were scheduled to show up. Ticket price, $850 a plate. Dress code, black tie. Purpose, raise money for local food programs and education. Hidden agenda, teach one woman and everyone watching her what happens when you confuse followers with power. I got dressed in a motel room 3 miles from Collins Acres. Simple black tuxedo rented for $89 from a shop in town. White dress shirt I'd owned for 15 years. Shoes a little scuffed, but polished. Luke stood by the window, tightening his bow tie for the 3rd time. You know they have people you can pay to do that, I said. Yeah, well, I figured I should at least tie one part of this night myself, he muttered. He turned, studying me. Last chance to back out, Dad, he said. We can still just pull the funding, handle everything quietly. I slid the Collins Family Foundation folder into my briefcase next to the property deeds and screenshots. Madison chose to make this public, I said. She posted our supposed poverty to 200,000 strangers. I'm just posting the truth to 350 people who actually live in this county. He swallowed, then nodded. Okay, he said. Then let's go. We didn't take Madison's BMW. We took my old truck. The paint was chipped. The engine rattled at idle, but it had hauled seed, animals, and 3 generations of Collins men. It could handle one more evening. Cedar Ridge Country Club glowed in the dark like a wedding cake made of glass and stone. Valet staff swarmed around Mercedes, Teslas, a couple of Porsches. When I pulled up in the pickup, one of the valets blinked, then recognized me and straightened his jacket. Evening, Mr. Collins, he said, taking the keys carefully like the truck was made of crystal, too. Inside, the ballroom shimmered. Crystal chandeliers, tablecloths smooth as ice, tall vases of autumn flowers at every table. A string quartet played near the stage. Servers in black and white moved like a school of fish with trays of champagne flutes. I spotted Charles and Elaine at a staff table near the back, dressed more formally than usual. Charles in a suit that looked borrowed. Elaine in a navy dress and modest necklace. They looked proud to be there. Nervous, too. Madison and Luke walked in separately. She made sure of that. She appeared at the entrance in a black Valentino gown that probably cost more than the tractor I'd rebuilt last year. Hair done in smooth waves, makeup perfect, heels sharp enough to cut glass. I watched from near the bar as she held her phone at just the right angle, catching the chandelier behind her. "Tonight I finally get to be around my people," she told her followers in a hushed, excited tone. "No more small-town drama. No more pretending to fit in with places that don't match my vision." She tagged the location, Cedar Ridge Country Club, hashtags, charity gala, high society, elevating my circle. She had no idea whose circle she was actually standing in. At 8 o'clock sharp, Neil Patel, the club manager, stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening, everyone," he said. "On behalf of Cedar Ridge, thank you for joining us for our annual charity gala." He gave the usual speech. Fundraising goals, thank you to sponsors, appreciation for the community. People clinked glasses at the right moments, laughed in the right spots. Then he smiled wider. "And now," he said, "I'd like to invite our largest donor to the stage. For 6 years straight, the Collins Family Foundation has given the biggest single contribution to tonight's cause. Please welcome Mr. Henry Collins." The applause started polite, from people who recognized the name from the program, then rippled through the room as faces turned and realized that the man in the cheap tux near the back was the billionaire hillbilly they'd seen in a few of Madison's videos. Madison's champagne glass tipped, spilling onto the white tablecloth. Her eyes went wide. Luke touched her elbow. She pulled away, not taking her gaze off me as I walked to the stage. The stage lights were bright, but not blinding. I'd spent enough hours on tractors in the sun to know how to squint and still see. I set my briefcase on the podium shelf, took a breath, and let the room fall fully quiet. "Good evening," I said. "My name is Henry Collins. Most of you know me, if you know me at all, as the man with the old red barn out on County Line Road." A ripple of polite chuckles. "Some of you," I went on, "may also know me from a recent series of social media videos." The chuckles died. "In those videos, my home is called a poverty museum. My way of life is described as generational poverty. Myself is the kind of old white farmer who's holding back progress." A few people shifted in their seats. Others stared straight at me. A handful turned to look at Madison. I opened the briefcase and pulled out a folder marked Cedar Ridge Holdings, LLC. "Before we talk about poverty," I said, "I'd like to clear up a small detail about this club we're all standing in." I held up the first page. "This is the deed to Cedar Ridge Country Club," I said. "Purchased in 2019 by Cedar Ridge Holdings, a company wholly owned by yours truly." Murmurs moved across the room like wind across tall grass. "Our staff here may not have realized who ultimately signs their paychecks," I added, "since everything goes through management companies. But as of tonight, consider that mystery solved." I switched folders. This one, Employment, Pierce, Charles, and Elaine. "Two of those staff members," I continued, "have served this club faithfully for 3 years. I read slowly. Charles Pierce, ground supervisor, annual salary $60,000. Elaine Pierce, catering manager, annual salary $46,000. Both hardworking, well-liked, and until recently, absolutely secure in their positions." Heads turned toward the staff table. Charles stared at the floor. Elaine's hand covered her mouth. I set those papers aside and opened the Collins Family Foundation file. As some of you know, I said, our family foundation has quietly supported local families in need for years. I flipped to the highlighted line. One of those recipients I read is Mrs. Evelyn Pierce, a resident at Silver Pines Assisted Living. For the last 4 years, the foundation has paid $3,000 a month to cover the portion of her care that her family could not afford. Total contributions to date, $144,000. You could have heard a pin drop on that polished floor. I looked at Elaine. We didn't do it for recognition, I said softly. We did it because we could help. And because your mother deserved peace and dignity. Elaine's eyes filled with tears. She looked stunned. So did Charles. I turned back to the microphone. Now, I said, you might be wondering why I'm telling you all of this tonight. I picked up the remote Neil had left beside the podium and clicked. The screen behind me lit up with the first image. A paused TikTok from Ew Madison from the middle. Her face, perfectly made up, hovered over a wide shot of my living room. Text on screen, this isn't humble, it's just giving up. Gasps scattered through the audience. This video, I said calmly, has 2.7 million views. In it, my daughter-in-law describes my home as furniture poverty, my walls as stained with failure, and my life as something her future children must be protected from. Click. Screenshot number 2. Madison in my fields, bare ankle on a tractor tire, caption, visiting the poverty ancestors so my kids don't have to repeat this. Click. Screenshot number 3. Our kitchen, my back just visible in the corner. Text overlay. Some men would rather die on a farm than admit they need help. I'm not letting his pride ruin my family's future. I didn't look at Madison yet. The whole room was doing that for me. I clicked again. This time, an audio file played through the speakers. My recording from the hospital. Madison's voice filled the ballroom, crystal clear. Henry's incapacitated right now, her voice said. He had a heart procedure, and the doctor said recovery is going to be long. He won't be making any big decisions for a while. The room froze. The appraiser came back with $920 for the whole package. The recording continued. Land, house, barn, the whole depressing museum. Honestly, this place is holding everyone back. Old white farmers hoarding land while young families struggle. The audio went on, her calling me land poor, saying she'd been working on Luke, talking about me like I was already half dead, and the only decent thing to do was sell off my life's work before I woke up enough to protest. By the time it ended, no one was shifting in their seat anymore. They were locked in place. Madison's face was drained of color under her makeup. Her hand shook against her wine glass. I shut off the recording and let the silence hang for a few long seconds. So, I said, when my daughter-in-law speaks online about escaping generational poverty, about breaking cycles, about refusing to inherit a poverty mindset. She's talking about a man whose businesses generate over $300,000 a month, employ dozens of people in this county, and fund the majority of the charitable work we are here to support tonight. I opened the final folder, Portfolio Summary, Collins Enterprises. According to the latest assessment, I read, our family's total assets, including Collins Organics, 24 rental units, Cedar Ridge, shares in Oakview Academy, and Willow Terrace Apartments, are valued at just over $52 million. I closed the folder. I don't say that to brag, I added. If I wanted to brag, I would have been doing it a long time ago. I say it because a woman used my supposed poverty as a stage prop to build a brand and make money by humiliating the people feeding her. Someone in the room muttered, "Lord have mercy." Another just whispered, "Jesus." I finally turned to look directly at Madison. She sat rigid, eyes wide, lips pressed together so tightly they'd gone white. "Madison," I said, my voice carrying easily in the quiet room, "you wanted your followers to see authentic wealth. You wanted them to watch you escape the trailer trash of your husband's origins. You told the world you were leaving behind a man too proud to admit he was failing." I spread my hands slightly. "I'm not failing," I said. "I am, by any reasonable metric, extremely successful. But success doesn't erase the right to be treated with basic respect." I picked up the foundation folder again. "Effective immediately," I said. "The Collins Family Foundation is suspending all charitable support to families whose members publicly degrade or defame the people providing that support." I looked back at Charles and Elaine. "This includes the supplemental funding for Mrs. Evelyn Pierce's private room at Silver Pines," I said softly. "Her care will not stop. The county can and will cover basic needs, but the private suite your daughter filmed for content will no longer be paid for by my family after the end of this month." Elaine burst into tears. Charles put an arm around her shoulders, his own throat working hard. I turned to Neil, standing just off stage, face pale. "Neil," I said, "as owner of Cedar Ridge, I am instructing you to place the employment of Charles and Elaine Pierce under formal review for potential conflict of interest and violation of our social media policy." Gasps again. "However," I added, raising my voice slightly, "let me be clear. Charles and Elaine did not post those videos. They did not ask their daughter to weaponize their employer or benefactor for clout." I looked at them again. "You have been good employees," I said. "Whatever happens next, that remains true. But the days of my family quietly funding yours while your daughter turns us into villains online, those days are over." Finally, I lifted the last sheet of paper. "Willow Terrace Apartments, Lease Unit 304. Some of you may follow Madison online," I said. "You've seen her film in a bright modern apartment talking about how she's clawing her way out of poverty. She never mentions that the building she lives in is owned by the same farmer she's mocking." I set the paper down. "Per the behavioral clauses in her lease," I said, "I am revoking the contract for Unit 304 due to targeted online harassment of the property owner. Madison and Luke will have 60 days to find new housing." I heard her whisper, "Luke, do something." But my son didn't move. He just stared at the stage, face pale, jaw clenched. I closed the briefcase. "Here's the thing about real wealth," I said, letting my voice soften. "It doesn't need an audience to be real. It doesn't need a ring light or a trending sound to matter." I looked from table to table. "For 3 years, my family has been quietly supporting another family," I said. "Gave them jobs, paid for their mother's care, discounted their rent. Not because they earned it, not because they were perfect, but because we could and because it was the right thing to do." I let myself meet Madison's eyes one last time. "In return," I finished, "their daughter called us trash to millions of people for sport." I stepped back from the microphone. "I won't be taking questions," I said dryly. "I think the numbers speak loud enough." Then I walked off the stage to a silence so deep you could hear the chandeliers humming. Halfway back to my table, someone started clapping, then another, then another. In less than 10 seconds, the entire ballroom was on its feet, applauding. Not cheering. This wasn't a football game, but a steady, heavy sound of people, acknowledging a line drawn. I sat down slowly. Luke's hand found my shoulder. Across the room, Madison stood up so fast her chair tipped backwards. She grabbed her clutch, mumbled something, and fled the ballroom. No one followed her except the echo of their own second-hand embarrassment. By Monday morning, Cedar Ridge HR had held its public staff meeting. Charles and Elaine were called forward. Their performance reviews were read, solid, dependable, valued. Then Neil explained that due to a complex conflict of interest situation, their roles would be temporarily suspended pending further discussion with ownership. They received their final paychecks that afternoon. Charles tried to call me 3 times. I let them go to voicemail. The message was always the same. "We're so sorry, Mr. Collins. We had no idea. Please reconsider. Don't punish Evelyn for our daughter's stupidity." At Silver Pines, Evelyn was informed that her private room would no longer be subsidized after October 31st. The facility offered her a shared room on a different floor, covered by a combination of county funds and what her family could contribute. Madison filmed one last tearful video in that sunlit room, talking about losing everything overnight and the cruelty of rich people who would rather cut off an old woman than admit they hurt you. The comments did not go the way she expected. "Girl, you mocked them publicly and lived off their money," one said. "Actions have consequences. You doxed your in-laws' home and called it trash, and now you're surprised they don't want to house your grandma? This is not a flex. This is the end of a free ride." Within 24 hours, she'd set all her accounts to private. Within a week, she deleted them. The Deerfield Gazette ran a feature, "Farmer Exposed as Quiet Multi-Millionaire After Influencer's Poverty Campaign Backfires." The Maple Ridge Chronicle followed with an editorial about the dignity of work and the hidden wealth of rural America. I declined all interview requests. "As far as I'm concerned," I told Mark, "the lesson's been taught. The rest is just people wanting to gawk." At Willow Terrace, Luke and Madison were given formal notice, 60 days to vacate Unit 304. They could have fought it, argued unfair treatment, tried to drag it into the court of public opinion, but there wasn't much public opinion left on her side. Luke moved back into the farmhouse 2 weeks later. Madison did not. She went to stay with a friend in the city where nobody knew or cared that she once tried to build a brand on the back of a red barn. A few days after he moved home, I found Luke in the barn, sitting on the same stool by the office wall. He was staring at the ledger books I'd left stacked on the desk. "You know," he said without turning, "these are actually kind of beautiful." I stepped inside, leaned against the doorframe. "Most people don't use that word for columns of numbers," I said. He shrugged. "They're evidence," he said, "of work, of commitment, of staying." We stayed quiet a moment, listening to the wind push against the barn walls. "Have you talked to her?" I asked finally. He nodded. "She wants to try counseling," he said. "Says she can change. Says she didn't realize how ugly it all looked from the outside." He let out a breath. "She also says you destroyed her life for one mistake." I picked up one of the ledgers, thumbed the edge of the pages. 3 years of videos is not one mistake," I said. "It's a pattern." He flinched, but he didn't argue. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. I set the ledger down. "You're asking the wrong question," I said. "It's not what do I do about Madison, it's what kind of man do I want to be, with or without her." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Madison chases performed wealth," I said. "Things that look like success, outfits, trips, followers. She thinks if enough people clap, it must mean she's right. I gestured around us. This, I said, is quiet wealth. Land that feeds people, buildings that shelter them, work that shows up every day whether anyone claps or not. I tapped his chest, lightly. And what really matters, I added, is character wealth. The kind that doesn't crash when an algorithm changes. The kind your kids can actually inherit. He stared at me, eyes a little wet, but steady. Do you regret helping them? He asked. Her parents, her grandma, any of it. I thought about Charles tending the greens at Cedar Ridge at sunrise, Elaine fussing over centerpieces in the banquet hall, Evelyn sitting in the garden at Silver Pines, eyes closed, face tilted toward the sun. No, I said. I don't regret helping people who needed help and did nothing to hurt us. I regret that their daughter chose to spit in the well she was drinking from. I reached into my pocket and pulled out business card, same one I'd had Mark print the day after the gala. I handed it to Luke. When Charles is ready, I said, tell him to call this number. It's for a property outside town that's going to need a ground supervisor sometime soon.
Time then.
Luke stared at the card. You're giving him another job? He asked.
He said, made all
I'm
the
giving him
difference.
another chance, I said.
John spent his entire
Him,
life in this
not
valley.
Madison.
These
You punish the
walls hold
behavior,
more than
not
just
the bloodline.
photographs. They hold the
Otherwise,
echoes of
you
a
become the
life
thing you're
well
fighting.
lived. After all
He
these
swallowed.
years, the weight of that day
And
never
Madison?
really left him.
He asked.
He carried it
Madison
quietly,
already has another
etched
chance,
into the
I said.
lines on his face.
It's called being 28
And you
and still
spent your
healthy in a
whole
country
life
full
right
of
here in
ways
this
to make an
house,
honest
didn't you?
living. What
Those
she does with
early
that
years
chance
must have been
is up to her.
incredibly difficult after your father
I looked at him.
passed. Looking back
You can
now,
forgive someone
all these
without
years
putting your
later,
life back
the
in their
weight of that
hands,
decision
I
still
added.
sits with him.
That
A quiet
goes for
reminder
business
of the
and marriage.
sacrifices made.
He nodded
It wasn't
slowly.
just the fire that kept
I
them
don't
warm
know
that
if our
winter,
marriage
was
will
it?
survive this,
It was the
he said.
kindness of the community.
I don't either,
that
I
stayed
admitted,
with you.
but I know this. If it does, it should be built on truth, not on whatever she thinks will trend this week. We sat there together in the barn, a 68-year-old farmer and his 29-year-old son, surrounded by ledger books and the hum of a life that didn't need an audience. After a while, Luke spoke again. You always talk about generational wealth in terms of the land and the businesses, he said. But sitting here, it feels like the real inheritance is this. Knowing who we are, what we stand for, what we won't put up with. I smiled. Now you're getting it, I said. Land can be sold, buildings can burn, markets crash. But if you pass down a spine and a sense of what's right, your kids will never be poor. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the old barn siding. The storm Madison had stirred up had blown through. It left wreckage in its path, sure, but it also cleared the air. I closed the ledger, the pages soft with use. Come on, I said. Morning comes early around here, rich or poor. The cows still need feeding. Luke stood up, and for the first time in a long time, we walked back toward the farmhouse together, feeling like we were moving in the same direction.
Sometimes the cruelest thing isn't
And that
what
really
people
makes you
say
wonder,
online.
doesn't it?
It's what they say when they think
About
you'll
what
never
truly
wake up to
matters in
hear
the
it.
end.
Madison called Henry's
perhaps
life
that is the real
trailer
lesson.
trash. While her entire
empathy
family
must
was drinking
extend
from a
even to
well,
those we
he quietly
misunderstand
dug
the
for them.
most.
In the end, he didn't raise his voice.
Perhaps
He
the
didn't
real
throw a
lesson here
punch.
isn't in the
He just showed
outcome,
his receipts.
but in the choices
And
they
then
made
he
along
showed
the
them
way.
what happens when kindness closes its wallet. Luke
perhaps
learned the
that
hardest
is
truth
the
of
quiet
all.
truth,
Real
hiding
generational
at the
wealth
center
isn't
of it all.
$52 million in land and businesses.
We often forget
it's
the
a
impact
spine.
of small
It's
choices.
boundaries. It's
Something
the
worth
courage to
thinking
say,
about as we
you
move
don't get to
forward.
spend my love like content. Maybe Madison will change. Maybe she
It
won't.
makes you wonder,
But
doesn't
from
it,
now
how
on,
we
she'll
define
never be able to
forgiveness.
say she didn't know what real wealth looks like. or what
Perhaps
it feels
the real
like when it
lesson
walks
here
away.
isn't in the outcome,
This was
but
the
in the
confession
choices they made along
stories.
the way.
If you've ever been used as someone
powerful
else's
reminder that
poverty
every
aesthetic,
action has a
or
consequence,
watched a partner
and
chase
finding
followers
forgiveness
while
starts within
stepping on your
ourselves.
heart, tell us your story
And
in the
that's where we
comments.
find the true
Don't
meaning of
forget
the
to
story,
like, subscribe,
choices we
and
make
share this
when no one is
episode with
watching.
someone who needs a reminder that quiet
And that's where we
people
find
are
the
not
true
weak
meaning of the
people.
story,
I'm your
in the
host,
choices
and I'll
we
meet
make
you in the next
when no one is
confession.
watching.